Good evening. I'm very happy to be with you here tonight. I'm going to talk about Israel and Palestine and the wars around us. And I'm going to tackle this very troubling subject from a very, very unusual angle. In fact, I may be the only one who dares going there. I'm basically going to talk about the biology of this conflict. Yeah. In 1982, an Israeli named Oded Einon. I don't have a blackboard I could write you the name, but if you want to look into it, just send me an email or something and I'll provide you with the information. 1982, Oded Einon, he was an Israeli commentator, analyst, aligned with the Israeli government at the time, published an Israeli plan for the Middle East. It's quite an extensive paper, but what he says, basically, was very simple. He said, we are going to see some radical changes in the Middle East. There are a few clear issues with life sustaining in the Middle East. You know, there is shortage in water and so on and so on. In the next few years, we will find out that quite a few communities in the Middle East are drifting away from our vision of enlightenment. Basically, they become jihadi. And our only way to deal with it, being Israelis, is to make sure that these people are going to fight each other. We have to make sure that we have as many as possible sectarian wars between the Sunnis against the Shiite, against the Alawites, and so on and so on. 2014, we find out that this guy was pretty accurate. He was spot on. They should integrate Einon plan into the Bible. He was the last Jewish prophet. How is it possible that an Israeli, pretty much anonymous, none of you heard about him except Majid maybe, how is it possible that he managed to produce such an incredible prediction? Ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't realize, they've managed quite successfully to build a very, very integrated society in Israel. Academia, intelligence, military, government, all working together. Industry, weapon industry. They throw some bombs on Beirut and they sell many more bombs. Every conflict they double their export of weapons. Very, very integrated society. I was asked by a TV station to come over and to criticize Oded Einon. and said, how can I criticize it? We are dealing with a genius. I told them, show me one Palestinian who back in '82 managed to produce such a prediction. Leave the Palestinian out of it. They have enough trouble. Show me one Arab. Show me one Harvard professor. One Oxford Middle East expert? No way. In the West, in the Arab world, we are all the time surprised by the events. But the Israelis are not surprised by those events. Was he a genius? This is a big question. A few months ago, there was a lot of discussion about the notion of the Jewish genius. Because they, all the time, every year, they get more and more Nobel Prizes. Now, this is not an indication. Obama got a Nobel Prize. Paris got a Nobel Prize. But ladies and gentlemen, it is very hard to turn a blind eye to the embarrassing fact that we have some very, very clever Jews around. But does it mean that we should be able to talk about the Jewish genius? Not really. Believe it or not, I always find it very, very embarrassing, because whenever people spoke around me about Jewish genius, I said, you must be crazy, I know so many idiotic Jews. And I'm sure that they're nice people, but really stupid. But we have a problem because some Jews are extremely clever, exceptionally clever, and it is about time to try to understand what is going on there. And this is where we're going to start today. When they discussed the Nobel, do we have any Hebrew speakers here? Have you heard about Ashbachat Ageza? Yeah. All right, so you confirm that I'm not making it up. No. Ashbachat Ageza is perfection of the race. For about 1500 years, Ashkenazi Jews is a very misleading notion. European Jews were practicing a very interesting social experiment. Now, I don't want to call it eugenic because this would be anachronistic, but in modern times, we are entitled to call it a eugenic project. In the Jewish ghetto, the rich Jew, the merchant Jew, the Yiddish millionaire, would marry his daughter, Bat Gvir. Yeah, I say it in Hebrew, so you confirm you do that, it's enough. Yeah. The Gvir, the rich Jew, would marry his daughter to the sage, to the boy that is destined to become the rabbi. Familiar? Yes. We have a lot of stories about it. She doesn't work with me. We never met, so you know, we are not making it up. In case you don't realize, they married money with scholarship. Now, there was nothing sinister about it. It is actually very clever. You're living in a ghetto. You want to make sure that your society is led by people who understand your religious texts, but also understand how to handle money issues. They created a very small class, very small European Jewish class that was extremely clever. They actually didn't realize how clever they were. No, it's true, because they were living in a ghetto. All that time, the so-called goyim around them did the opposite. Every time they spotted the clever boy, they took him to the church, put him in the monastery, they told him, listen, girls forget about it, maybe boys. Now, a group of Jews became extremely clever, but by doing so, they actually impoverished the ordinary Jews around them of great genes. Because every time there was a clever boy, whoop, they took him out. Hey, schlepp! They took him to Germany. They created a geographic divide between what we call the Ostjuden and the Ashkenaz, the Germanic Jews, the Yiddish nation, who were, it's great that I have an Israeli, chotvei etzim, and shoavei mayim. Chotvei etzim, woodcutters and water drawers. You are familiar with these notions? Yeah? You're right. Sorry about it. But you are familiar with chotvei. You're right.
Yes,
you're right.
Exactly.
Chotvei etzim, shoavei mayim. People who were woodcutters and water drawers. Agnon was fascinating by these people and wrote a lot about them. They were people who could only manage manual work. They were the lowest of the low. And at the same time, they created what we call now, some of us, a cognitive elite. And it worked. It was very successful for the Jews. But then something dramatic happened. With Jews, everything is dramatic, so something dramatic means that nothing happened. In the beginning of the 19th century, the Jews were emancipated. You know, the French Revolution, Napoleon said, oh, now you can join, you can do whatever you like. And then something incredible happened. Within 10 years, they took over Europe. Only then, in the 19th century, this small community became dominant in matters of use. They took over universities and arts and medical studies and law, and they went into government. They were incredibly successful. And it wasn't their fault. They were indeed very, very clever. And they were largely more clever than the people around them. Now, this is something that we don't like to talk about. And we don't like to talk about it out of the contemporary Jewish discourse. Because It is Darwinist. It's a eugenic project. It confirms that there is something unique about the Jews. But it is very helpful to talk about it, because it helps us to understand a lot of things. I don't know, I'm sure that many of you visited university at a certain stage. And one of the most common things that we see about professors, ordinary Gentile professors, they're usually very clever in math, but they're useless in everything else. They don't know how to engage with women, they don't know how to sell their theories, they drive, it's a disaster, you know. But with Jews, they're very good in marketing. So they're not just very clever, those clever Jews who belong to this unique elite. They're also very good in marketing. Marx was very good in marketing. Freud was far less interesting than Jung. But he was very, very, very good in marketing. Chomsky. I don't know. Sometimes I think, what kind of drugs do I have to take? I look much as in. What is he saying? How can people listen to it? He's definitely good in marketing. Gilad Atzmon. I am very good in marketing. I have rabbis. Somewhere. Yes. There are a lot of people who work for me. They hate me, they denounce me, and they manage to fill the rooms that I'm taking in. Don't go with an anti-Semitic, we go. Where is the, you know? This is my marketing. It's very unique. I'm the only one. I don't even have competition. Now I have competition with Dieudonné. And he's not even a Jew. I didn't know that there were Jews in Cameroon or something. Very, very interesting. What is Zionism, ladies and gentlemen?
It stems from a colonial, imperial...
Don't go there. We will talk about it later if you really want. Zionism, no, obviously you missed the beginning, so...
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay, it's okay. We can talk about colonialism later. Zionism is basically 4, 5, 10 extremely clever Jews. Herzl, Nordau, Pinsker, Jabotinsky, incredibly clever Jews. Borochov, all the streets in Tel Aviv. That is how I remember. Borochov, Dizengoff, Chernichovsky. No, Chernichovsky is from the... Yeah, all those clever Jews, they invent a project and they schlep the Ostjuden to Palestine. Now the theory behind Zionism, behind early Zionism, is incredibly beautiful theory. I'm not a Zionist, but I'm brave enough to admit it. They said, we Jews are not nice people. That's what they said. We don't work, we are world bankers, we are usurers. Horrible. But it's not our fault. Oh, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. It is all because we don't have a land. And they say, once we go to our land and we start to work and we cultivate the soil, you will see. we will become the most beautiful people on this planet. And they did it! And it worked for 2 weeks. Incredible. But it doesn't end up, it's not going to end up there. This extremely clever society helps us to understand the severe class division in Israel. It is incredible. We have in Israel an incredibly rich, a cognitive elite backed by money elite, you know, oligarchs, all the money of Madoff, and people who are very poor. You saw that in the last few years we had some kind of a civil unrest in Israel just because of that, because people said, listen, we cannot live anywhere, because rich French Jews buying our flats in Tel Aviv and they don't even live there. You know why all these French Jews, they buy a house in Tel Aviv? Because they need a Holocaust shelter. How many people here have a Holocaust shelter? Try to think about it. People who have Holocaust shelter, or people who think that one day they would have a Holocaust. And they know why. It's frightening. Now, it is very interesting to understand how it works. This is more or less how the division of IQ happens in society. So these, I mean, a lot of human events or in events in nature create this kind of bell curve parabola. You see, you have very few clever people, a lot in the average, and quite a few idiots. Now, in a normal society, the elite would look something like that. Yes? In a normal society, let's say aristocracy, you have quite a few idiotic aristocrats. For obvious reasons, because they're not defined by wisdom. If your father is an aristocrat, he has a title, and you are the elder son, you are going to carry the title even if you are very stupid, retarded. So in normal society, even aristocracy is going down. By the way, the Brits were very clever about it. They realized that there is a problem, and they allowed, like the Jews, they allowed people to join through peerage, through the military, through the politics, and so on. The queen or the king, they would give him, okay, you are kosher, you can join us. But in the Jewish society, the elite is pretty much here. Can you see it? There are very few average, and most of them are either very clever or very sophisticated with money. Now, I'll give you a few examples how devastating it was for the Jews who were not clever, for the Jews in the Pale, for the Jews in Ukraine, for the Jews in Poland, for the Jews in Belarus. Jewish humor. Do you like Jewish humor? Yeah, we like anti-Semite, not anti-Semite, we like Jewish humor. It's funny. 19th century Jewish humor is not Jewish humor. This is something that I learned from Shlomo Sand. Shlomo Sand said, what do you think? Is it Jewish humor? Do you think that Albert Einstein or Spinoza were going around cracking Jewish jokes? Oh yeah, tell your stuff. No. No. Jewish humor is basically Yiddish humor. It's Yiddish humor. It's the humor of the people of the lower class in the East. Now, you realize that this East-West divide is not a mathematical or categorical. And all those 19th century jokes are jokes where the Jews are mocking the Gentiles for being stupid and make the Jew look very clever. Yeah, I'll give you two jokes, 3 jokes, as many as you want. I'm not as good as Dieudonné, but what was it really? The oppressed Jews identified with the clever Jews, with the Jewish wit, by means of humor. I'll give you a few jokes, 2 jokes. In a city in Poland, with no Jews at all, every Sunday, this is a Jewish joke, it's not an anti-Semitic joke. If it's told by an anti-Semite, it becomes an anti-Semitic joke. But in a city in Poland with no Jews, every Sunday, there were 2 beggars. One was a Jew with a beard, very dirty. And the other one, near to him, was very clean, with a white shirt, with a crucifix. And the guy with the crucifix, the Christian, made a lot of money, buckets. And the Jew was standing there, and anti-Semites, they spit on him, and they didn't give him a penny. They go out of here. After a few weeks, the priest was a humanist, came to him and told him, listen, Moshe, it's not for you. You don't make any money. Look at the Christian guy near to you. He makes a lot of money. Just go back to your city. It's not, I don't want to see my people behaving like that. Please, go. The Jew, look at the Christian, and he tells them, Oi, Yosef, this priest is trying to teach us about marketing. What is the meaning of this joke? These Gentiles don't start to understand what we're doing to them. But the Jews in the East were not successful at all. They were oppressed. Another joke, a pogrom. This is an offensive joke. So women... I cannot stop. To stop this is like celebrating my condition. The political is personal. Personal is political is personal. I never remember what order. No, because I'm not a lefty. Lefty, it's an awful joke. But I'll make you laugh. There is a pogrom. A pogrom. You know what is a pogrom? Yes. Everybody knows what is a pogrom? How do you know? Did you have a pogrom in Geneva? There is a pogrom. These Cossacks, they come to the small Jewish village and they kill all the men and they kill the boys. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. And then they drink vodka and they start to rape the women and the girls. It's awful. And at a certain stage, they go up to the attic, they go up the stairs, they look for gold and money, and they find the grandmother. And immediately they take their clothes off and they're about to rape the grandmother. And the mothers and the daughters say, oi, 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 you must stop. It's like, almost like as good as Dieudonné. Stop. And then the mother is shouting from upstairs, a pogrom is a pogrom. Even the senile grandmother is more clever than the Cossack. Did you get it? This is Jewish joke from the 19th century. By the way, contemporary Jewish jokes are the complete opposite. Woody Allen? No. Woody Allen is mocking the Jew. Curb Your Enthusiasm. What's his name? Larry David. Larry David. It's complete opposite. They are mocking. They make the Jew look ridiculous. Exactly. Very clever. It's the complete opposite tactic. If you make yourself look clumsy and weak and a usurer and a capitalist and whatever, you dismantle the opposition. If you tell me, Gilad, look at you, you are a horrible human being, you tell me something I don't know. There is nothing you can do. Jewish humor is always a political tool. When we try to understand what is happening here with this elite, we gather that all those people here actually identify with this small elite by means of humor. But this elite has led the Jews for 1500 years. Extremely clever. This may help us to understand why Zionism was such a successful project. As you all know, Zionism wasn't very popular in the beginning of the 20th century. And it wasn't that popular in the 30s. In 48, there were only 600,000 Jews in Palestine. But in 67, Zionism was the voice of the Jews. And look what they achieved there. They managed to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. And they throw bombs in there. And yesterday we listened to Richard Falk, who gave an incredible talk. And we spoke about international law. And then he came up with a few observations that I'll try to observe. He said, listen, the law is in the sides of the Palestinians. But he said, for some reason, the Palestinians don't know what to do with it. Yeah, that's what he said. For some reason, the Palestinians, I'm quoting now, for some reason, Richard Falk said yesterday, it is quite peculiar that now the Palestinians are a state and they can take Israel to The Hague. They don't do it, in spite of the fact that the law is on their side. Which means that we'll have to look now into the structure of hegemony within the Palestinian society. But before I leave the Jews, it's always very hard for me to leave the Jews behind. There is one thing that you have to remember. It doesn't matter what all those Jews, the retarded, the average, and some of the clever, what they do or what they say. What matters is what the elite is doing. So, for instance, Norman Finkelstein, whom I respect as an academic, it's not a mutual relation. He doesn't respect me, which is not normal for Jewish elite. Norman Finkelstein says, oh, we don't have to worry. The Jews are drifting away from Zionism. Nonsense. It doesn't matter whether the Jews are drifting away from Zionism or not, because the Jewish elite that dominate American policy through AIPAC and French policy through CRIF and British politics through CFI is still dominating the discourse. And it doesn't matter, because the same thing happens to us, ladies and gentlemen. George Soros, who is the lefty rich Jew, dominates the politics of the entire left in the world, including the Palestinians, and including, we have here a lady from BDS, including BDS policy to a certain extent that BDS changed its goal statement and surrender 1948. And I will, if you need, I will give you the exact reference. But let's talk now about Palestine. Palestine, as you know, was conquered. Do we have Palestinians in the room? Yeah, no, I understand. Palestine, as I'll use you, you know, you must start to work with me. You speak Hebrew, you're Palestinian, we are a perfect couple. Yeah. We don't have to get married, you know, I don't impose myself on you. I get, you know, but, okay, but you may get upset now, because it's very upsetting what I'm saying now. Because usually at this stage, few Jews left, but now they don't even come. You see? But now I'm in the phase of my life where I start to upset Palestinians. Palestine has been conquered for many years. In the last 2,000 years, some historians, it debate how you look at it, said that as many as 70 conquerors. It's a lot. A lot. What is the role of a conquered nation, an occupied nation's elite, to deal, to acquiesce, to be subservient somehow to the conqueror, and to put the people in line. So if the Turks need tax, the Ottoman, Empire, or they need soldiers, we have to provide them. This is not necessarily an intellectual elite. This is a subservient elite. And the Palestinians, this is something that a lot of Palestinian scholars say, they never had a problem. They didn't have a national identity. They saw themselves as part of different societies. In the Galilee, they see themselves part of Syria, and so on and so on. It wasn't a problem. Something unique happened with the Jewish invasion. What happened with the Zionist invasion? They don't want to take the assets, the dates, the tea, the tomatoes. They want something more fundamental. They want the land. This is very unusual. They don't come to rob the wealth. It's a total robbery, it's a plunder. And in that light, the Palestinians behave out of character. If you want to understand what happened in Palestine in 1929, when they start to gather that something is a bit awkward with this British mandate and the Balfour Declaration, and they start to come more and more, and they push us out, and there are people that are left, because Palestine was a feudal society, so again, very rich Palestinians sold their land, some of them, and left a lot of people on the land. Something started to happen in 1929 and then 48. Ethnic cleansing, the Nakba. And in 49-50, Israel established its laws of return, which are racist laws, not different from Nuremberg Nazi laws. The Palestinians start to grasp that something is different. And this is exactly where we see the emergence of the Fadaim, of real resistance and it develops with the PLO and Fatah. And then later, much later, Islamic resistance, the Hamas. And where are we now? After all this bujeras, after all this mess, we find out that almost every, if not every Palestinian organization is funded by George Soros' BDS. The George Soros Open Society. Even the BDS. And I show you the documents today. And as a result, all those Palestinian organizations somehow compromising very important assets, precious values, such as, it is offensive, I'm sorry about it, such as the right of return. When BDS, and your BDS, when BDS was established in 2005, his first goal, they said, we are against the colonization of all Arab land. Am I right?
Yes.
You know what it says now. We are against the colonization of all Arab land occupied in 1967. What? Am I telling the truth? I am. And this has been passed in a clandestine manner. You as a Palestinian were not informed about this crucial change. In 2012, when there was an emergence of a very strong movement that was called the March to Jerusalem, not a single Palestinian NGO could join. How embarrassing it is. Because I'm naive. I realized for many years that Palestine was all about the right of return. I was wrong. Because as a matter of fact, here, the BDS changed it, and the Palestinians are okay with it.
No, that's
No,
not.
no, it's not.
I don't know, so it's okay. I'm trying to wind you up. It's about time. But this issue was raised in a few Palestinian bodies, and yes, we like to drive this BMW in Ramallah. Now, I'm going to suggest here to come here and to say, are you upset?
No, I'm not.
Really? So maybe.
It's a long time.
Okay. Okay, you lived under Israeli occupation. I understand, sorry. Now, this is no one's fault. As I said, I'm going to talk about the biology of the conflict. We have a very powerful elite that is dealing with a very weak elite. And it's not the Palestinian fault that they have a weak elite, because when they had resistance, they were murdered, one after the other. Arafat didn't react well to polonium-210. And Sheikh Yassin and Rantisi were murdered. The Palestinian resistance was annihilated brutally. Now you have to be bold. You have to be bold to kill a sheikh as he lives the mosque at 6 o'clock in the morning. But these people are bored. And what we are left with? Very weak people who are actually exactly the same people who led the Palestinians for the last 2,000 years. I'm going to drop a bomb. A demographic bomb. The only person, I think, who understands how severe is this discrepancy between these two societies is Mahmoud Abbas. We like to see him as a collaborator, and we have a good reason. But I don't know if you know, he was a very brave young man. Did you know that he was, as an academic, he was a proper Holocaust denier? His PhD. He's not a sissy. And he's not a sissy. Mahmoud Abbas, for the last 20 years, says, we don't have the military power, we don't have the cultural means, we don't have our Palestinian diaspora manipulating the American government. We have very different culture. We cannot defeat them into submission. We have one bomb. They have atomic bomb, white phosphorus, chemical. We have one bomb. The demographic bomb. And he's not that stupid. It's very embarrassing for me to admit. He's probably the only clever guy who understands that no one would stop Israelis from perpetrating Nakba tomorrow morning. We may think that if the Palestinians kind of manage to poison a well near Tel Aviv or put a bomb in a bus, this would be enough for the Palestinians, for the Israelis to commit a genocide plus ethnic cleansing. But let me tell you, the Israelis don't need the Hamas or Palestinian resistance to do it. They can put the bomb themselves. We always talk about, I was in America, I toured America now for 3 weeks. And in Denver, someone told me, Gilad, please explain to us what happened in 9/11, the false flag operation. I thought, why do you? What? Why do you have to go there? You want false flag operation? What is the motto of the Mossad? By way of deception. They tell you. In Jewish world, we don't have conspiracies. We tell you, we lie. We are lying. And you eat it. By way of deception. We are doing it. So you want 9/11? Why do you dig? They tell you it is. This is the motto of the Mossad. So if Israel wants tomorrow to take out the Palestinians, they can do it. And they know how to do it. And they did it more than once. Am I right? There is only one Palestinian bomb, and it is the demographic bomb. And by the way, I heard an extremely embarrassingly stupid piece by Palestinian the other day. about Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. I don't know, it was 8 pages and it didn't go anywhere because it's funded by Soros. The issue here that to be in a Jewish state is not something that is driven by majority. To be a Jew is to be chosen. That's what it is. It's the state of the chosen people. So it doesn't matter if we have 50% Palestinian between the river and the sea. There are already more than 50% Palestinians. If you put Gaza and the West Bank and the Israeli Palestinians. Even 80%, maybe not enough. Israel would sustain its powers as long as it can do it using political manipulation abroad and its military might. And this is something that we have to understand. And they will dominate the French government by a cliff as long as they can. Unless something dramatic happens. And it's quite funny to talk about it in Switzerland, to Swiss audience, because we are not miserable enough. When I talk about it in Detroit, or in Chicago, or in New Jersey, I tell American people, you are Palestinians. When I talk to French people, I say, you are Palestinians. Look what this Jewish lobby is doing to you. And I say Jewish. I don't say Zionist. I say I learned to pronounce the J. It is a Jewish lobby. It's not a Zionist lobby. It is a Jewish lobby. And I tell the Palestinian solidarity campaigners, look at your terminology. It is Judified. Every word that you are using is there not to upset the Jews. The lady spoke about colonialism. Israel has never been colonial. No. It has nothing to do with colonialism. Colonialism, ladies and gentlemen, is a clear exchange between a mother state and a settler state. Israel is a settler state, but where is mommy? Oh, mommy, where are you? There is no mommy. There is no mommy. The Jews want us to call Israel colonialism because then they think that we will think that they are as bad as the Belgians, as the French, as the British. But no! It's a unique project. Do you remember any event in history where people come to a place after 2,000 years and say, oh, sorry, you have to move it before? It's unique. It's unique, it's incredible. And guess what? The people moved. What do you think? How do you think the Brits would react if a bunch of Italians settle in Piccadilly Circus and say, listen, we have to move, we are the Romans? It's a war. It's not colonialism. We say colonialism because we don't want to offend the Jews. Apartheid. It's not apartheid. Are you crazy? Apartheid? Apartheid is a system of exploitation. It's a racist system of exploitation. But the Israelis, they don't want to exploit the Palestinians. They want them out. It's an ethnic cleanser. It's a racist ethnic cleanser. It is Nazi-like. But you cannot say Nazi-like because it may offend the Jews.
But what about the Jews that want a Palestinian?
Raise this question in 20 seconds. Okay, 20 seconds is over. I'll answer it now. What about the Jews who want to help the Palestinians? There are a few. I believe, by the way, the Jews are incredible people. It's so unfortunate that 15 million of them given such a bad name. No, this is a joke. It's a Jewish joke. If you don't understand, usually I come with a drummer that hits the cut, and then you know when to laugh. But the Jews, this is a very good place to stop. What about the wonderful Jews? Ladies and gentlemen, what is Jewish power? Is the Krif Jewish power? No, it is just a symptom of Jewish power. Is AIPAC Jewish power? No. Is the Krif pushing pressure on the French government so it blocks #1 French comedian? Is it Jewish power? No. It is a symptom of Jewish power. Do you know what Jewish power is? Jewish power is the capacity to stop us from talking about Jewish power. Do you understand what I said now? Jewish power is the capacity to stop us from talking about Jewish power. How do we do it? We make sure that we speak about apartheid rather than calling Israel a Nazi-like state. And by the way, I don't know if we have Nazis in the room. I don't want to offend anyone. Yeah. No, it's not fair on the Nazis. No, you compare. My mother told me, "Why do you compare everything to Nazis? It's so Jewish." No, I'm okay. To call Israel colonialism is something that we do in order to appease the Jews. So, the Palestinian Solidarity movement, or at least some part of it, is dominated by the Jews. And in order to appease the Jews, we built a terminology that divert the attention from the real issue. And we are not allowed to talk about the Jewish lobby in America because Chomsky is offended. And we are not, when we see that the BDS change its goal statement and give up on the right of return. And we know why they did it. We cannot say anything because the Jews can be offended. And we have to think strategically. With all those people that talk strategically about Palestine, can you suggest any good thing that happened in Palestine after 65 years of Jewish strategy? No. So, fuck strategy. The only strategy I can think of is to start to speak freely. To call a spade a spade. If it is a Jewish lobby, call it a Jewish lobby. Don't call it an Israeli lobby, because it's not an Israeli lobby. It is a few Jews who do what they believe good for the Jews. That's what it is. And it's not colonialism. Call it Jewish nationalism that is dominated by Jewish racism. In America, they call it the First Amendment. In Europe, we don't have First Amendment. We call it freedom of speech. Things will start to change when you take yourself seriously. I went yesterday to see Richard Falk, Professor Richard Falk. He's an incredible guy. The average age in the room was 82. I see a lot of young people here. We are the future. No, I'm already on more than 82. You are the future. It's your life. Production. Kick out after, in Switzerland, I feel very stupid because you are doing a lot of things right, actually. As a society, you're still a productive society.
We're French.
No, but you understand what I'm talking about. Start to tell what you feel and what you think. And it's very unfortunate because the Palestinian solidarity movement is now the biggest enemy of freedom of speech. The Judified. Like BDS, I know that it has nothing to do with you, this year campaigned against George Galloway. Do you know George Galloway? George Galloway is the most eloquent speaker for Palestinians. Some people have some problems with him. But no one can speak as well as a parliamentary. Who is the second best speaker? And we may not agree with him on some issue. Norman Finkelstein. Attacked. Greta Berlin, the founder of the flotilla, attacked. Gilad Atzmon. It's me, by the way, if somebody disavowed, not that I care about it.
And me.
Sylvia, one of your best French commentator, attacked by the same people. Is this free Palestine? And let me tell you, Omar Baghouti from the BDS studied in Tel Aviv University. Clearly, which he asked me to boycott, clearly Israel is more open. And guess what? 70% of the Israeli-Palestinians, according to one or two polls that I saw, were said into a poll, 70 to 75%, that they would prefer to live in the Jewish state rather than being Palestinian citizens. How embarrassing it is! For sure, who wants to live with Ali Abu Nima? Or is an anti-democratic creature? Not that Netanyahu is... It is very problematic. One of the things that we have to do is not just to criticize the Jews, also to make sure that Palestinians, didn't manage to offend you, but no, I didn't want to offend you, to make sure that Palestinians are also looking into their own culture and criticizing it, because they have a problem as well. They have a serious problem. After 100 years of conflict, they achieved nothing. It's unique. It's unique. And one of the reasons is that because the solidarity movement was very successful in achieving nothing, because this is exactly what it was said to achieve. Fuck all. And it's very, very frightening. We have managed to kick out every intellectual we have ever had associated with this movement. Who is our philosopher? Who is our thinker, writer? We killed him. Ramzi Baroud was for a long time a shining light for me. Did you see him writing something about, I love this guy, and I'll never in my life put him down. But I didn't see anything of quality, of the same quality that I saw from Ramzi Baroud 4 years ago. I'm sorry.
Gideon Levy.
Now, listen, when it comes to the Jews, you have Gideon Levy, and you have Israel Shachar, and you have Israel Shamir, and you have a lot of people. In fact,
you have from Edward Said to
You're right.
Hafiz Shafi to Raja Siraj, you have dozens of Palestinians within Palestine or abroad.
You're right, and this is right. I'm not talking from the list that you mentioned. Edward Said was the only person from the list who is a household name in English that people in this movement are familiar with. How is it possible? Do you understand what I'm saying? How is it possible that Ilan Pape is the expert on Nakba rather than the Palestinians? What do you think? That the Jews will let an ex-Nazi be becoming the expert of the Holocaust? Not in million years. Not in 6 million years. All right? It's about time you take care of your narrative and punch it down and say what it is. That's the way I see it. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And what is amazing is that there was a phase in Palestine. I was born in Israel because my English is so good, people don't understand. The fact is that I don't speak English at all, I just memorized a lot of text. I was born in occupied Palestine, in Israel. I remember in the 70s how terrified we were when we had a bunch of Palestinians coming in Zodiac in through the, they were heroes. I remember myself patrolling in a soldier, just the fact that they put a gun on me made me afraid. I was horrified by my own gun. They put the guns in, the Jewish thing, you start the thing, you see the Shoah before it comes. It's not there now. It's not there now. I don't, by the way, call them Palestinian. If they don't want to resist, it's fine. But the one thing that they cannot do is to play the Abu Ali and talk about resistance and at the same time to take money from George Soros. It's not going to work. This movement is in a stall. Anyway, I spoke a lot. I spoke a lot. And start to attack. Thank you so much. Be in touch, please. Your name. It's like